Oh my goodness, you guys, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's February 9th. It's 2011. This is Day 9 Daily number 258, and it's Friendday Wednesday. We have an extra special guest coming on today, iEchoic, who many of you may not have heard of, but you will hear all about him today as he has an amazing new proposal for how to change your TVT style. So we're definitely going to look at his wonderful thread on Team Liquid, which should be not only a good illustration of how you should post in public if you want people to take you seriously, but also how well thought out the structure of the build is. For the live viewers who are going, oh, you're a little bit late. Well, I bathed. You can see I just recently got clean for this daily. And then I had to actually get dressed for it because I figured it would be kind of weird for like the first ever time. You know, I have a phone call with iEchoic to be like, hey man, it's no pants o'clock over here. So we're going to eventually bring him in and learn all sorts of good stuff. So let me just rearrange myself. Because we have an exciting news announcement about the Kingston HyperX Pro for a Day series. All sorts of goody goodness to announce today. So here, let's go ahead and slide on back. Here is facebook.com/HyperX community. Big congrats to the week 3 submissions. That would be Mac Gardiner. I'm assuming it's going to be French because it would be only okay if it was Mac Gardiner. But man, would that be pimp out if he was like, Mac Gardiner. He won week 3 by doing an impersonation of almost every single unit. Definitely go look at this because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Alright, so the week 4 competition. The votes are now open. You got to vote for the finalists of week 4. Week 4 was to create your own cheerful for the pro gamers. So for instance, we have the Team Shiny Jacket Foreigner. Yes, that's right. Jinro and Idra, well known for wearing the shiny leather jackets. We have My Little Noni. He's chilling. He's on his pony. And there's, of course, the Team Liquid banner. Beautifully designed, in my opinion. So that is just a smattering. Oh, yeah, look at this. Love your race, love all your units from OGS MC. And here is the cutest collection. Look, there's a Stalker. Oh, my God. There's a little Zelia Templar guy. Once again, go to facebook.com/HyperX community. For any of you who are thinking, hey, how do I participate myself? Well, the week 5 is just starting to design your own SC2-related motivational poster or lolcat-style artwork. For all the winners, you win all sorts of fancy prizes, such as high-end RAM from Kingston HyperX, or from Kingston, such as their new HyperX product. And you get a chance to hang out with me and In Control at the Penny Arcade Expo. Oh my God! And me and In Control are definitively cool people. So facebook.com/HyperX community. And without any further ado, without any further delay, I want to bring in the man of the hour, the myth, the legend himself, the guy who many of you say, oh, ooh, who's this big fancy suave dude who will be crashing onto the scene? It is iEchoic. Say hello to everyone.
Hello. Thank you for that intro.
Yeah, that's right. That's how we state things here. I mean, even if, for instance, you were like my uncle or something who doesn't really own a computer, it's the most epic uncle of all time. And everyone would be like, yeah, uncles, my favorite relatives. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Echoic. What I want to do first to the kind fellow known as Eli, aka iEchoic, is to open up this thread that was on Team Liquid. I'm even going to expand it out a little bit so that way we can see it in its whole glory. But it is a 2-factory, 2-starport build. And before we ask iEchoic any questions, I'm going to take you through my process of stumbling across this build, of how iEchoic made it here today, because I was just so giddy when I saw this. So first of all, look at this. Here's an intro. It says, I don't like using siege tanks, so I began brainstorming a tankless build. And obviously, look at this. Here's a few assumptions. I have to react to all the Terran vs. Terran openings. I want it to be mobile. I want to do economic damage. So you heard me always say that you should have some sort of plan when you're going into StarCraft 2. And when you're trying to develop your plan, you should think about what you want. Cool. We want no tanks. We want mobility. We want to do economic damage early on. Simple, clear, clean statement of what he wants, okay? And second of all, we have pictures. Pictures are much easier to convince anyone of anything than giant blocks of text. As someone who has written many mathematical papers, for every equation and complicated statement you make, that cuts the readership in half. For every picture you include, it doubles the readership. Very good facts to do. So, there's other things to note, like difficult to execute, other things like that. And first of all, notice here comes an overview. This build utilizes 2 fast factories and then 2 starports. Infernal Pre-Igniter is researched fast. You use the factories to do a lot of aggression and to do aggression stopping. Fast Medevac allows you to do some more economic harassment. And also the 2 starport gives you flexibility. So, cool. We've already established some sense of our plans and the purpose for everything in this. Notice how there's been no statement whatsoever about a build order. So, for instance, later on, yeah, we see this sort of thing. Whoa, yeah, look, we can see a big list, but notice how not user-friendly this is. This is kind of like, all right, blah, 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 factory, tech labs, was Starport's, okay. And I mean, this statement of the overview clicks with me. And you want your own build to click that way for you. I mean, it's very easy to succumb to the details and to forget the greater picture. So that's what got me really excited. And in particular, just as a post, look at this. Look at how organized this overview, analogy, build order, why it works. And we can, oh, look at this. It's divided into map control, Terran symmetry, economic damage, look, forcing responses. Oh, cool, it's organized. Ooh, it's even formatted. Look, there's tips and tricks. Okay, here's FAQ. And here's some replays. So great. Huge thanks to iEchoic for putting in the work to make a thread that was so readable. Because few things actually, hurt my soul more than a thread that's like, Ghosts and Terran versus Terran. And then you open it up and the original post says, thoughts? And then he gets banned, and the admins are like, you need to make a better thread, because that doesn't encourage any discussion. And he goes, oh, fine, and creates a thread that's like, all right, I want to use Ghosts and Terran versus Terran. What are your thoughts? Because I think they're pretty good. And then he gets banned again. So anyways, iEchoic, I am curious to ask, who are you? Give yourself a brief introduction to the community out there who are curious, because I think that now that you've created the thread, a lot of people know who you are. But before then, assuming you'd never written a thing, who be you?
Well, I am just a college student who likes to play video games. I love RTSs. I used to play the AoE series. I actually never played Starcraft 1. So when I started Starcraft 2, I was pretty bad. I placed into like silver, bronze maybe. It wasn't good.
Did you play in the beta at all?
Yeah, I did play in the beta, and that's when I placed into about bronze or silver. So it took kind of a lot of work to adapt because StarCraft is so different.
Yeah, you also kind of have to battle with the interface a lot of the times.
Yeah,
or it will just be faster. You know what you need to do, but come on, click them buttons, dude.
Yes.
So, and where are you ranked right now?
Right now I think I am 100 and something. I haven't laddered in about a week, so I did some dropping there.
You mean 100 and something, like in the North American server, in the North American top 200?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a little Master League player, just a little Master League
Yep.
fellows. Nice. So, what I want to ask then is a little bit about how you came up with this build. And I'm going to, before you say anything, give the audience a brief history of Terran versus Terran. That when, especially in the early days of the beta, people were just kind of tanks and Vikings straight up. And then people started to realize that the Marauders could kill tanks really, really, really easily. So if you had a lot of Marauders, that would be good. So there was these huge maraudering battles, and then players began to kind of go Marauders and tanks. Maybe get some other mixes in there, even get some Ravens. And then Banshees also became popular. But again, everything was still kind of focused around the Marauder. Banshees were cool because almost always there were a ton of Marauders. There are some famous games in the early MLGs where players would just switch to 3-port Banshees and kill their opponent going mass Marauders. But then as time progressed, people realized that Marine is actually probably the awesomest unit that Terran has at his disposal, right? And then we had Marine King Prime going mass Marine in all matchups. And also, even American players like Phoenix, the South American superhero, who is an amazing Marine-focused player. And that kind of became the core Marine tank, because tanks are good against Marines, Marines are good against everything, so let's do that. So that was the state of Terran vs. Terran. And I am getting text messaged good. Now, while I go answer this text message, Mr. Echoic, I was wondering if you could be so kind as to share with everyone a little bit of information about how you came about this sort of Terran vs. Terran style and what your opinions and influences and thoughts were.
Well, first of all, you have a unit that you can load two of them into a medevac and drop them, and they can kill entire mineral lines, and that is actually just ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is actually absurd, and I think people have kind of realized that, but not completely. I don't think people have actually realized how insane that is. And people have kind of done it in a cheesy way, which is just to drop a whole bunch of Hellions and just hope you win instantly, which isn't bad, but it is
Yeah,
cheesy. But
yeah,
and I was wondering if you could actually transition out of that and continue to use those because they're really fast. They have
yeah,
and if
yeah.
you keep making Hellions, you can use them all game long. You have that incredibly strong harass. So if you can just make a composition out of that, then I thought it would be really good, and it turns out that it has been so far. So
Yeah, and I love that comparison to state like that that a lot of times people would be focusing on sort of the cheesy aspect of it, you know, that because I mean there's so many strategies that feel hope based, you know, like burrowing 10 banelings in their mineral line and just hoping when they expand they don't notice and you can kill all their SCVs. But if they one base and just push you, you lose, something like that.
yeah, exactly.
And so tell us a little bit about your thought process. So it sounded like it started with just Hellions are awesome, can I do something with it? And what ended up leading you to this idea that you should settle with the Starport units instead of something like, I don't know, a lot of tanks or Thors or even still more Marines or something like that?
Well, yeah, that's basically what it was. Hellions just are awesome, and that was the basis of the build. But and then what I realized is that they're really mobile. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried actually doing like Hellions and then Thors, but those are slow. So then you have a whole bunch of fast Hellions and a whole bunch of slow Thors. So the
Mm-hmm.
only other fast thing is the Starports, and the
Yeah.
Starports are actually really good because they allow you to drop Hellions. They give you detection, they give you air control, and they're mobile. So
Mm-hmm.
they fit really well. They have this really good synergy.
Awesome. And so it sounds like the Hellion plus Starport mix seems like I would call it your mid-game plan because that's a word that I use all the time in my own shows. The idea that that's kind of what if that's the main focus of what you're going for is this two factory, two Starport mix. And the next question I want to ask is what happens way down the line? Way down the line. Like after you've gotten 3, maybe 4 bases or something like that, what's that eventual goal? Is it just mass air, or do you want to do mass tank, or would you again be available for mass infantry, or do you think that all 3 are valid?
I'm still playing with that, but I think that the build, first of all, you have to keep air control, and that should be easy because you have two starports. So that's kind of like a linchpin of the
Uh huh.
build.
Uh huh.
So, and we've seen this before. This isn't new. When in Terran vs Terran, when you'd get air control, you could switch to battle cruisers, and
Yeah.
Jinro did that in the GSL, and it's actually not that unpopular because battle cruisers are really good against everything that Terran has on the
Yeah.
ground. Because Marines, they shoot fast. Battle cruisers have high armor. Thors just suck against battle cruisers. So
They're so
if
terrible.
they really are. So yeah, if you can just stay battle cruisers and you can just keep those air upgrades going, you have that
Mhm.
really good synergy, and it just that's what I'm kind of going for.
Okay, cool, cool. Now, rather than ask you about what the specific opening is, I understand that you sent me a replay of you against Poke Bunny. That's just a good illustration of the basic opening, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and pop into that. So it looks like you're on Team Vile. So if you wanted to give a shout out to Team Vile real fast.
Yep. Shout out to Team Vile, clanvile.com.
Bam. Victory shout out. I really like that. Because if you were in control, you would have been here for 10 minutes learning about when you would next announce something. Oh, take that, Jeff. Yeah, smacked. All right, awesome. That's how we put Jeff in his place. Oh, man. Okay, so I have this game opened. I am on the faster speed, and we're going to do a 3-2-1 sync. You ready, dude?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, play. Alright, so I see you in the north position as the Red Terran. We have Poke Bunny, the enemy! Though he's a nice person in real life and very friendly, we're still going to be labeling him as the enemy. He's from Team VT, as we see. So, what I first want to ask is, what is the basic opening that you're going to be going for in this game? And we'll sort of comment on it as you go.
Well, basically, you open with a barracks and 2 Marines, and then you do 2 immediate factories and 2 immediate starports, and you
Okay.
get pre-igniter as fast as you can. And the 2 factories allow you to hold off early pressure, cheese, stuff like that. Allows you to get map control and hold the towers. And the 2 starports give you a medevac, And then they give you whatever you need. You can get a Raven and a Viking if they go Banshees. You can get 2 Banshees if they fast expand. You can go 2 Vikings if they get Vikings.
Cool, cool. So what I'm going to slowly be asking you as time goes on is what are some of the things that you worry about? Because I think that what's really hard whenever someone watches 3, 4, 5 games is to not get the entire scope of everything that you're thinking about through, 50 different openings that you're worried about. So I'm even noticing that you're building your first barracks very, very close to your command center. I just hit 1 minute and 45 seconds. Is there any reasoning that you're not building it closer to the ramp or just more generally out in this wide open space?
Well, after you build the 2 Marines, you actually don't need it, so I like to float it across if my opponent spawns at the 3 o'clock position. You can just float it right over and scout. Cool. And that's actually really nice because you get so much information, and you lose a barracks, which is only 150 minerals. It's a lot better than like losing a factory. Yeah, I just float it if he spawns there.
All right, cool. So it looks like you're doing the usual barracks on 12. You're doing the refinery on 13. And for any of you who I haven't bludgeoned over the head with enough about this, there's been constant SCV production, and it's been beautiful. I've been feeling it. And it looks like you queue up 2 Marines right away. Is there any reason you don't just build 1 Marine at a time?
Well, if you see, I'm just about to get 100 minerals. I got my supply depot going down. Actually, if I build the 2 Marines and then the supply depot, and then I put down a refinery coming up here, it gives me about the perfect amount of gas. You don't have to queue the 2 Marines. It's not a big deal. It's just that it's a little timing thing in my head that kind of gets the refinery in the right place.
All right, cool. Yeah, so we see a second refinery going down right now, and it looks like you scouted with the SCV. I'm going to be pausing in 3, 2, 1, pause, so I'm at 3 minutes and 38 seconds. Okay. I just want to illustrate a couple of things real fast. The fact that you're getting a really fast second refinery before your factory, that's generally mandatory if you actually want to be able to afford the Infernal Pre-Igniter. And I'm assuming that you're getting the Pre-Igniter before you're actually going for a Starport. That's like the first thing that you do.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, woo! Yeah, that would be great if I went through that whole rank. You're like, no, I'm not getting that early. And I was like, whoops. Still true, though. You need to get an ultra early second refinery if that's the case. Now, also, we see this scouting SCV popping out. We see your Marines starting to gather at the front of your base. So I want to ask, and I'm going to be resuming in just a second, I want to ask what you're really worried about and what you're thinking of when you're scouting. What is it that you're specifically looking for? So I'm going to go ahead and resume in 3, 2, 1, play. So feel free to tell us.
Well, the first thing you should always check in TVT is, do they have gas? If they don't have gas, well, I probably won't get info because I actually scouted kind of late and I'll probably be denied. But first of all, you need to see where he spawns, obviously. And then if you can get in the base, you want to check for gas. No gas is basically a sign that they're either going to cheese you, which is a 5 Rax Marine, or they are going to expand. Those are kind of the only 2 things you can really do with that. So just got to be prepared for that. Also, if they're close positions, you need to be a little more careful because a rush can actually come faster. And the further they are away, you can be a little bit greedier. It doesn't really make a difference too much on this build, but it can in some situations.
All right, cool. So we see your 2 factories are down right now. It looks like you used your barracks to do a little bit of tech lab ad-honory. And it looks like, wow, awesome timing. Look at that. The Infernal Pre-Igniter started before you even build a Hellion. That is really fast. And there's the Hellion coming out right now. Your Marine's going to take this Zelnaga Watchtower. And there's a fast question I have, so I'm actually going to pause it. I'm paused at 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Are there cheeses that you're worried about at this point? I mean, I know you got the SCV to his base. You saw the Marines there. They shot and killed them. So you kind of at least had a sense, nothing too crazy coming up. But, I mean, what are some things that you're really worried about or that you're really thinking at this point in time?
The only thing I'm actually worried about is I only have 2 Marines, as you can see. So if they do a 2 Rax and they send SCVs, that is actually pretty risky. Since we're close cross position, it's not that big of a deal. I'm actually not that worried about it. But if he was close position and if he had no gas, because that could be a 2 Rax, I would start to, bells would kind of go off. But I think I'm okay here because he's cross positions and Any later cheese, like if he tries to do a 5 racks Marine, like all in, by then I'll have pre-igniter and it should be really easy to stop. So I think I'm pretty good right now that I saw his position and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
So let's say you scouted him, and let's say you straight up saw 2 racks. Would you just build a bunker? Would you try to get the pre-igniter faster? What would be your general response if you were feeling like you were going to be cheesed? Or do you just do the same thing and try to control well?
I'd say in these positions I'm actually fine. So far away, it's such a long walk. But if we were close positions, I would just build a bunker. That really stops 2 racks. If you have any idea that they're going to 2 racks, so no gas. If they have no gas and they're close to you, you should really just build a bunker because if they hide a racks, you can just straight up lose.
All right, cool. All right, in that case, I'm going to be resuming in 3, 2, 1, playing it. So we do see your Hellion popping out right now. Here's some more Hellions getting made. And you don't get a reactor. You're just going to be making Hellions 2 at a time. Is there any reason you don't get the reactor? Is it that you kind of want the pace of the Hellions?
Yeah, the money's just not in the build. Later on, I do get it with the barracks. The barracks actually doesn't have any function the rest of the game, so you can sit there and just build reactors and lift and build a reactor and lift and build a reactor. But right now, you don't actually have the money to produce that.
And it looks like you're not building anything out of your factories at this point. Is there a reason for that?
There's kind of a choice between a starport and a factory where you can spend the minerals. If I feel like I'm getting cheesed, I'll delay the starport and keep building more Hellions. But right now, I feel pretty safe. We're pretty far away from each other. I can just put up the starports right away.
So you're kind of like using 1.5 of your 2 factories while you're getting these 2 starports up. Is that accurate?
Yeah, sounds right.
Okay, and there we see that there's the medevac coming out. And it looks like you're getting very aggressive with your Hellions right off the bat, doing a lot of regular poking, trying to get in his face, at least pick off something, but mostly trying to just push him back. And I really like that, already establishing a little bit of presence and force in the map. We see Poke Bunny looks like he's going for the usual fast Banshee with some Marine tank stuff, just like ultra standard good stuff. And your medevac looks like it is about to pop out. And now you're doing a Banshee Hellion Viking mix. That's kind of awesome. Can you comment a little bit about your decision-making with what units you're producing at this point?
Well, when I poked up the ramp, I saw the tank. So if you see a tank, you know that they're not going to do cloak immediately. They could get it delayed, but you can't actually make a tank and rush cloak. That's not really possible. So I skipped the Raven, I just did a Viking to shoot down the Banshee, and I tried to do a drop. But since I saw the tank, I just used 2 Hellions because it's sort of a botched attempt, but it's not a big deal to lose 2 Hellions. I mean, if he was doing Banshees, I would just load 4 straight in there, because you can't really defend that very well if you only have Banshees. So.
And one thing I want to note, I mean, a lot of people might view that drop as a complete and total failure. However, notice that this whole army that was originally moved out to the Zelnaga Watchtower has pulled all the way back to defend. And now it's re-gearing up to move out. So there's this very peculiar mix of Raven, and it looks like you can pretty much support those 4 structures if you're going like Hellion, Viking, something.
Yeah.
And here's the push, and it looks like you do some good cooking action. But this period looks kind of technical to execute. It looks like you're trying to do a very careful job of dancing around everything.
And also when he moves out, I do a drop, and that's because that's kind of guaranteed damage. If he moves out with his whole army, it's kind of like attacking with mutas. Except the thing is, you don't have turrets in Terran vs. Terran. Like, you can't build turrets, don't shoot Hellions. So you have to leave your army in your base, or you're just going to get fried. So the second he moves out, I can just counter drop on him, unless he leaves some of his army in his base, which is already a win, because then he has less army to attack me with. So it's kind of a win-win. You should always do a counter drop.
So it looks like you're having some very good placement, keeping things very, very far back from him. I'm actually going to pause right now. I'm paused at 9 minutes and 55 seconds, so I hope you're at least remotely close, because there's a lot of action going on. And then I'm actually going to hit the B button to back it up just a little bit right before. So I'm at 9 minutes and 40 seconds exactly. He's moving out with a very intimidating force. It's a lot of Marines, a lot of tanks, and 2 Banshees, so he can really rip through ground. Does he have siege mode? No, it doesn't look like he has any siege mode researched. Now, how are you going to be positioning stuff up here? Because, I mean, I think a lot of people would immediately begin panicking at this point in time, because I feel like this 1 Banshee, everything rests on him, on keeping that 1 Banshee alive, because I feel like that's the only way that you can effectively blast down these tanks.
Well, yeah, like you said, it is a technical build, and as you can see right now, I'm actually probably behind because that first Hellion drop was botched, and if you look at the army tab, my army is way, way smaller. So he definitely has
Holy
a much
crap!
bigger army than me. Yeah,
Dude, your army's
it's a
tiny.
big difference.
Okay, I just want to throw it out there, by the way. A lot of those tabs are misleading. I mean, Blizzard made the game, so they could pull a lot of data out of it, but I mean, like, the income tab, I'm like, don't even worry about it. Army tab, you know, generally I just use the production and stuff. But if your army's, like, half his size, that can be kind of telling. That can be kind of... Because, I mean, honestly, but that, just as a personal rant, I have a lot of people who ask me these kind of oddly stated questions based on the statistics that they read, where they're like, well, I opened up the army tab and we had approximately equal mineral count, but I noticed that I was using 30% less gas in my overall army composition. Is there a way to increase the overall percentage of gas in my mix? And I'm like, I don't know. Build gas units. I don't know, because like it doesn't mean anything to me. But this is still revealing, in my opinion. Exactly half, almost, is the size of your army tab. So I'm going to go ahead and resume in 3, 2, 1, play. And it looks like you have your little medevac pulling back out in the unit tab. It looks like he has very few SCVs, 21. Wow. So there comes the push in. You're immediately throwing down that auto turret. You smash through his Marines. Oh my god, that's so cool. In the army tab, it looks like you still have a smaller army, but tanks are not so good at shooting up. Oh my god, this is awesome. I'm impressed. Wow. That's awesome. Alright, I'm actually going to pause for a minute because my sounds sound really loud, but it looks like everything's normal. So I'm back and resumed. I'm at 10 minutes and 54 seconds. Yeah. So anyways, it looks like you're just continuing to mass up a relatively typical looking force of everything that you can afford.
As long as you have air control, you can keep making Banshees. The only situation where you need to do like double Vikings is if he goes double Vikings. As long as you have air control, you can really make the Banshees. I'm pretty comfortable that I have air control right now because I have 3 Vikings and he had none, so I'm not really worried about that. I keep making 1 Viking just so if he like hides a starport, he doesn't come at me with like 10 Vikings and just kill me, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, also expanding because a good time to expand is always after you kill their attack.
Yeah,
relatively safe.
Now, if you're not really able to kill their attack, do you just sort of expand when you have money to? Because you look pretty broke making as much as you are out of this set of buildings.
Yeah, you can actually, you have enough production to really decide. You just got to play it by ear. That's why the build is kind of technical. You got to play it like a Zerg player. So if you crush an attack and you feel really safe, you can expand. If they're turtling, you can expand. If they're one-basing, you just want a one-base.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so it looks like, just walking right in, crushing all the Marines, and then your Banshees just clean everything up. Wow. So basically the role of the Hellions is to be like Marine killers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, sick. So it does look like you are just doing a lot of damage. Yeah, this looks pretty easy peasy. What are the parts that make you feel most worried, like that makes this build fragile? You said it was a technical style build.
Yeah, it is. Basically, I'd say 2 things. One is scouting. You have to scout. If you don't scout, they can come with a cloaked banshee, you won't have a raven. They can go 2 Vikings, you might not be going Vikings. It is 100% reliant on scouting well. It shouldn't be that tough because you actually have more mobile units you can fly in with Vikings and look around, but you need to keep up on scouting or else you will just lose. And also, Thors, there's a timing for Thors where it can be kind of tricky. I've always been okay against Thors because 1 Thor isn't that big of a deal. If he attacks you with 1 Thor immediately, you can just drop in his base because he doesn't have any units. But there is a certain timing where he can attack, and it can be really a tricky micro battle. And there is no hard counter to that. It's just kind of a... It can go either way. It's just micro and how well you control your units.
Yeah, so I mean, like, have you found that there are? Oh, wow. Oh, guys, you guys, hold on, you guys. You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting? My Skype was adjusting my audio settings. I hate it when Skype does that. All right, so now you should be able to hear me fine. That's what was going wrong. That whole time, whenever the Banshees were firing, I was like, what is going on? The Banshees were like, and I was like this little tiny quiet voice going on. Nice. Perfect. There we go. Thank God. Woo, that was scary. All right, cool. Yeah, all right. Back to you, iEchoic. So you're talking about the timing of the Thors and that sort of thing. And that timing obviously sounds, a little tricky, but like even up to the early game part where it's just the Hellion Banshee Viking mix, it seems so straightforward to me.
It is really straightforward. It's not actually confusing. When you say technical, you shouldn't think that it's confusing. It's not like you have to be a genius to run this build. It's just that you just need to be really on top of scouting. You need to hold the Xel'Nagas, and you need to have map awareness.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, it's not like, no, you don't have to be a genius to run it. It's not really a complicated build. It's just technical.
Okay, cool. And we have two other games between you and Maker and you and Hashe. Is there a specific one you'd like to load up?
Probably the Maker game.
All right, let's go ahead and check this bad boy out. I love knowing that the sound levels are fixed. Haha. That's what I get for upgrading my drivers. I'm so regretful. Deeply pained and regretful for what I've incurred. So I am pausing it. I'm at 0 seconds whenever you is ready.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, play! And I'm actually going to go ×2 on this bad boy. So I have ×2'd it, and we're advancing along. You're in the right position. Your opponent at the top position, Maker. So tell us a little bit about what happens this game and what the noteworthy aspect of it is.
Well, Maker goes for a fast expand. And that allows me to make 2x Banshees with my Starports. I don't need the Vikings, I don't need a Raven, because when you fast expand, you cannot have Vikings or Banshees. So basically what I have is I have Blue Flame Hellions and I have Banshees. And that is so hard to defend against. We saw Jinro do that against Marine King Prime on this map, actually. And it's really strong against fast expands. And eventually he just masses bio, and we will see from there.
Nice. Oh, I like the way that you tease. So typical. All right, there's the barracks going down, and it looks like Maker, wow, doing a no gas expand, so like an extreme early expand. All right, awesome. We do see you're doing your usual double marine. There's the supply depot to help you get the timing for it. Here comes the inevitable refinery coming down. Bam, there it goes. Second marine about to pop out. You still haven't done any scouting of him, really. I assume that partly it's because there's no way your build's going to deviate.
Also because I have the barracks that is going to lift.
Okay, cool. Right after it makes the tech lab?
Yeah.
And there it is. Cool. And we do see over here in Maker Town his command center. There's one barracks, more barracks. It looks like he's opting for the reactor first to really slam out higher marine numbers. And there is the factory going down. There's the tech lab. And you're going to be able to poke right on in there. Blue flame going down. Exact same thing we saw last game. So you see this. Now, does your mouth water now? Like, are you super comfortable against this kind of opening?
Oh, yeah. I think that the 2-fact, 2-port build is really strong against fast expands. I don't think I've really lost to a fast expand just because it's so difficult. When you're building Marines and Marauders, it's so hard to stop 2-port Banshee and Blue Flame. It's really difficult. So.
And are you like cutting any production to be able to get all these units out? Like, because we saw a little bit of unit cutting production. I'm actually going to slow it down. I'm back to regular speed. I just hit 650. We see a lot of Blue Flame Hellions out from you right now. In the last game, you did cut those a little bit. Any of that was happening while you were getting your fast Banshees?
No. If you're referring to SCVs, I never cut SCVs. I don't think that's a good idea. But yeah, I'm assuming you mean military production. And in this case, no. I like to have a lot of Hellions. It's really nice, especially with this poke. He does this poke here, and it is stopped pretty easily.
Yeah, it was absolutely one-sided Hulk smashery. There you are moving across with the medevac, and it looks like you're going to be dropping, and yeah, that's going to be awfully hard for him to deal with, especially upon losing half his army at the front of your base. Now, typically, how much damage do you feel like you have to do for this to be a successful drop?
I would say about the damage I did is about as much as I need to do. I actually had quite a bit of miss micro there at the start. I kind of got jammed on a turret. I could have done a lot more. I say I killed probably about 6 to 8 SCVs, which is reasonable. I mean, you can expect to get that when they fast expand because they don't have that much army. Especially if you drop 4. If you drop 4 Blue Flame Hellions, you are going to kill SCVs.
And is there any, like, cloak play that you do now, or are you more focused on the expansion and the units?
Banshees, typically, for me, I use more of a combat unit than as a stealth unit. I do actually get cloak this game, but I think it might be just because I macroed bad and kind of floated some minerals and gas, and I was trying to burn it. The income is actually pretty similar right now, given that he has an orbital command. He has 2 orbital commands, I mean, and I am just expoing a little bit ago. And so I'm just harassing with my Banshee, and he has a turret up, so he's playing pretty smart. And
wow, you get double reactor on your factories. Holy cow,
yeah, I feel pretty safe. Yeah, I feel pretty safe because he expanded, so I'm going to have a little lull in Hellion production, but it's not a big deal. He can't really attack me at this point.
Because, I mean, if he did, you only need, like, 4 or 5 Blue Flame Hellions and then 2 or 3 Banshees to clean up, like, 100% of what he attacks you with.
Yeah.
And there's a very good shot at the expansion. I would label that as a successful little drop, especially if you just retreat. By the way, for any of you who don't do this, there's nothing wrong with just retreating. Retreating is one of the awesomest techniques in all of StarCraft. And it still sort of looks like you're favoring Hellion production over everything else. Your love for Hellions is still maximum.
Well, Hellions, they actually increase in efficiency as you make more of them, because the splash damage just adds up and adds up and adds up. And once you get in these big battles, especially against Bio, if you have a lot of Hellions, the splash just does so much damage, and it's actually really cost efficient.
And you're moving around with these Banshees more, again, to get a little map control. It doesn't look like you've been particularly aggressive with the Banshees, just being very, very sort of gentle with how you move around with them.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to lose the Banshees. I mean, just having the Banshees forces him to make turrets. It forces him to spread his army out. You don't need to actually kill a ton of stuff with them. They're just strong.
Yeah. There's the cloak. Ooh, that kind of stinks for him, considering that he is quite low on the cloak. Now, this actually felt a little over bold to me, to just rush right in there with the Banshees. I mean, if he scans, he just sprints up and kills them off. That
is a very good point, and you will be proven correctly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you get cloak, you really should send one Banshee at a time, so that the worst you're doing is trading a scan for a Banshee. I do get overzealous. I'm just going to kill this guy, and it doesn't work. I lose too much.
Well, it still looks like you're in what I would call a commanding position. There goes the Banshees, the Hellions trying to pull their way out. And one thing that I'm sort of starting to feel, the more that this game is going on, is that you can pummel someone hard with a Hellion Banshee mix, but you can never actually kill them. You can sort of harass them till they give up. But I mean, the Poke Bunny game, I think, is a little bit of an exception because, you know, in this game there's the bunker at the front, the turret, and all that sort of good stuff. So I'm curious, like, how do you finish your opponent off?
Well, I mean, for the most part, if you kill their economy, most people realize that they're done. If you kill the SCVs, there's no point in actually continuing to play. You can't really win. If you kill their army and you expand, you have a better economy, you've basically won. Eventually you can transition into battle cruisers or whatever you want and kind of finish it off.
Is that normally what you like to do, is the battle cruiser transition?
I do like to in some situations, like on this map I definitely would, because you have the close air. If we were to get like cross positions Metalopolis, I really don't like how immobile they are. Like, it feels like they can be abused by attacking different positions.
And it looks like there's the missile turret, which could probably end up just getting killed if you attack it. And there it goes. You're taking it down. You're taking another expansion at this. You're basically second natural, continuing to snipe things off around the outskirts, and you just have like a lot of Hellions. I don't see any upgrades, no armories really going down at this point. Is there ever a reason in your eyes to start getting upgrades for either your air or your ground? I would assume if you begin to go mass battlecruiser, you'd want to do something like that.
Definitely. That is something I think I could improve upon is upgrades, because as I noted in my thread, every single attack that hits air is a low damage attack. The Marine shoots fast and weak, the Thor shoots multiple rockets, the Viking shoots multiple rockets. So getting air armor is really, really strong.
Uh-huh. And what about for the Hellions? Is it just the fact that the Blue Flame is like a plus 15 upgrade?
Yeah. I think the blue flame Hellions kill what they need to already. I'm not too worried about those. I would probably prioritize air upgrades.
Cool, and you're still getting Hellions. This is so cool, because people just don't see mass Hellion at the 15-minute and 50-second mark. Yeah. Nice. And it looks like Maker's still trying to do his best to... Gosh, he has no SCVs. Alright, he has 9 there.
I think he's realized that he's probably done economically, but he's built up a gigantic bio ball, and this is actually kind of scary. It is a very big army.
So he's starting to swing himself forward here. Picks off your medevac. It looks like you have an orbital command instead of a planetary fortress, I guess, if you're really trying to be king of economy. Oh my gosh, you kill things so fast. What the hell? This is awesome! Oh, that's a scary army. Yeah, I gotta be really afraid and terrified for a minute, because occasionally when he's at 37 food, he'll maybe make a comeback. I bet iEchoic. I freaking bet indeed.
Yep.
Clean my glasses again, enraged. And that was actually shockingly one-sided, that last little bout.
Yeah, if you look, the army sizes are actually about equal. Obviously, I killed his economy, so the supply wasn't. But actually, if you were to look at the units lost, it was so one-sided after that battle. It was really ridiculous. It was about even before that battle, and then after the battle, it was not.
Wow, so let's actually advance things forward a little bit till right when he decided to move out. I want to see this big shift. So your armies were... In the army tab, it looks like your armies are about the same size. In the units lost tab, we see that, yeah, wow, it looks like about the same. Almost identical at the start of the battle, and let's see what happens. Blue bar is big. Ooh. Oh my god. Nice! Nice! I'm into it. I'm feeling it. I can respect that. Sick. So it's just that you're getting this absurdly efficient army mix. The Hellions are so good at their purpose that they can kill so much stuff that's awesome.
Yeah, and then there's also another note that is, I was actually producing off 2 starports and 2 factories the whole game. So he had to continue building production. He had to build turrets, engineering bays, all that stuff. I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to build any more infrastructure. So all my economy went directly into military.
Cool. And we have this last game of you against Hashe that I'd love to blast through real fast, because it looks like you're in close positions as well. And whenever you have that loaded up, let's go ahead and give it a start-a-ruha.
I am ready.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, and play. We see Hashe spawning here in the left position, and you're at the north, doing the lol lame. Were you like rolling against him like a million times on the ladder?
He's actually a teammate of mine, and he was searching at the same time I was, so yeah.
Brutal, brutal. So, a couple of questions I have right now that you've established that you're teammates. First of all, given these positions where it is, you know, proxy on Metalopolis, do you prefer proxy or do you prefer cross-map with the style of play?
You always want to be as far away as possible, because the closer you are, the tougher Marauder rushes are, and yeah, on really small maps like Delta Quadrant, Steppes, this build is actually really tough. You might even want to try something else. You might want to adapt it, maybe make a bunker. The farther away you are, you get better map control. You can counterattack easier. It's just better all around. So this is actually kind of troubling.
Yeah, and also I'd even like to say that because you're making nothing but fast units, if you're farther distances, there's more ability to use the fact that they move quickly and to exploit that. If you're right next door, it doesn't really matter if you're fast or slow, you're next door. Looks
Yeah,
like again
exactly.
you're doing your barracks placement on the corner. I'm actually going to speed it up to ×2. I also want to ask, because you're doing this against a teammate, is the element of surprise a significant factor for this, or do you just feel like it's such a stable, well thought out play, it's fine?
Well, you should never make a build that only relies on not knowing it's going to come. That just is a cheesy build. He does know what builds I do, and he does actually do a build that is strong against my build, and it's in close position, so it makes it really difficult. But no, you know you have a good build if the opponent knows you're going to do it and it still works. Like for example, like if you do a 1 Rax fast expand, there is no counter to that build. You can't straight up counter it. I mean, you can play well against it, but you shouldn't really be able to direct counter it.
Yeah. By the way, for any of you who did not know, a Reaper kills a Hellion in a 1-on-1, which is like one of the weirdest things in the universe. But it's still true, so that's why a lot of people favor getting this very, very early Reaper out. Do you ever worry about that, just sort of like breaking your build at the start?
Well, you are right that a Reaper does kill a Hellion, but you can also shoot the Reaper, run away, repair it. You can actually pull 2 SCVs and put it on the Hellion, and then the Hellion will win. So
nice.
It's not too big of a deal.
And I love that you're pointing out little things like that, because those are the sort of things that if you haven't done this build a million times, you just like don't see. Like in this game, we're never going to get the chance to see that. And it looks like he's going to be going Marauders. Cool. Does he have a Concussive Shell coming? It looks like he's opting for Stim first. I'd feel like Concussive Shell is more important against the Hellions, though.
Yeah, I think he ends up getting both. I don't remember. He does a pretty tough timing push with the Marauders.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah, he's doing nothing but going Marauders. Oh, 3 Tech Lab, not even expanding, just holding back. I mean, it makes sense, because, I mean, if he sees your Hellions, he's not going to be like, oh, let me just put a vulnerability here. Guy's talking about streaming. It looks like he's blocking his ramp. He is clearly expecting that drop. He has, like, all of his guys planted at this backside. And there's your Banshee coming out. Would you ever suggest doing some sort of, like, double Banshee if you think he's doing anything but air? By the way, I'm going to slow it down. I'm at 8:14.
Okay. Yeah, if I knew what build he was doing, I would do double Banshee, because this Viking turns out to be completely pointless. And he's actually attacking with the Marauders. I dropped in his base at the same time, and the only difference is that I can actually run my SCVs away from Marauders, and you cannot run away from Blue Flame Hellions. They are very fast. So we have sort of a trade here. He even had some Marauders in his base, but you need a lot more than 3 Marauders to stop Blue Flame Hellions. Although it does turn out I make a big mistake here, and I end up losing a lot of my SCVs because my Banshee stops attacking, and I stop them in a corner. But it makes the game
Oh, I see. Here you are. A kill here. Kill.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh! Echoic, I'm clicking for you. Get there. Get there.
Yes, that was quite bad.
And there he lands. And it looks like it's a pretty typical 1 SCV versus 2 SCV battle. Bringing down the Mule, which... Oh, man, that was a little bold. And he has 2 orbital commands, so he's won.
He is quite ahead on the economy because he has twice the mules, twice the production capabilities, but he does not have any tech, and that's something to keep in mind.
Okay, cool. So I'm very interested to see how you're going to play out this rather unusual situation. It looks like you are going to be focusing on the Banshee as a unit. Obviously picking off the mules as fast as you can. So what is your strategy at this point? Just to try to harass with Banshees, force him to make Marines, and then Hellion him?
Yeah, exactly. Because you make the Banshee, that forces Marines. You make the Hellions, that kills the Marines. And also, especially when there's a cliff, Banshees can abuse cliffs very well. As you see, I just keep kiting these Marines, and he can't do that much about it. He actually, the only thing he could really do is try to come from 2 angles. But at this point, you can't do that much about it when there's a cliff and you don't have any tech.
And one thing that actually kind of excites me is that I see your APM is at 84 average this game. I haven't looked at it in the other games, but I kind of get the sense that you don't need to be some sort of ultra hand speed king to execute this build order that you're executing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I only average about 80 APM. It's quite low. You don't actually need great APM to really do good at this game. I see a lot of people who have like 160 APM, and most of it doesn't go to anything effective, which doesn't help.
Yeah. Banshee continue to do poking damage. This is so cool to watch. This is so awesome. I understand this game's a little bit of a longer one, so I'm going to go ahead and times 2 it.
Okay.
As we're advancing right along, looks like you have plenty of Marines getting made, and it looks like anytime you're starting to get a little leery of Marines popping out, you make a few more Hellions. He's doing a very smart thing of pulling this orbital command back. Running him away. And there's the Marauders popping out. It seems very ambiguous who should win, Marine Marauder or Banshee Hellion. It seems like very control-ish.
Yeah, definitely. It does come down to control. In my experience, once you get to the big battles, I feel like Hellion Splash really sort of dominates. But in the smaller battles, you need to make sure that you get good positioning on the Marines. You don't want to attack into spread Marines. If you can attack when they're moving, because units clump up when they're moving, you can almost definitely get a good splash.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like we have some more Hellions popping out. You're commenting that this is a little bit weird. He's going to go ahead and let his orbital command almost die. And then looks like, again, like an almost trade. Well, looks like he's getting mined out with use of all those mules. But you're just continuing to go Banshee Hellion. Is there any reason why you haven't expanded yet, or if there was any fear that prevented you from doing so?
I felt like denying his expansion was a bit more important. As you said earlier, you can actually produce so much that you can actually make the decision between Hellions and Banshees. And I feel like since I have a tech advantage, I can one base stronger than he can. So as long as I can keep him from expanding, I should theoretically have the advantage.
Uh-huh. And is there any reason why you're not getting Cloak? Was it just like held up on minerals?
I feel like if a good player responds well, if he puts turrets down, it doesn't do as much. I mean, Cloak is 200 gas. I'd almost always rather have 2 Banshees. I mean, I'm really just killing the units with Banshees anyway. I'm not like stealthing in and killing SCVs. He also has a turret in his mineral line.
Yeah. So see more Banshees being made, more Hellions being made. Marines try to stim, but as you point out, the cliff is so awesome for using this. Picking off the depots. By the way, I personally feel like building depots behind minerals is such a vulnerability, especially because of Banshees. I actually tend to build all my SCVs tucked along, or excuse me, all my depots tucked along this side, like on any map.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
There's also more Hellions continuing to pop out. Such an unusual mix, and the crowd is very excited. In the audience chat, people go, "Oh, Zom, I'm gonna do it, LOL." So he now has his expansion up, and does your game plan change at all now?
Well, now I have an expansion up as well, so I'm a little bit less concerned, although I would like to deny it. I think denying the expansion would surely be a win, so...
It looks like
and it turns out that you can just win.
And that just, well, so I just killed him, and... Oh, it was easy. Beginning to get Viking thing, and it looks like you're beginning to produce Vikings, and at a time like this, would you ever just halt Hellion production, get a reactor, so that way you could just beat him in the air? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I have 2 starports, and if he were to create 2 starports, he would... That's a lot of money. I mean, so he's probably going to have 1. I can switch. I can make 3 to 4 at a time, and I would just go straight Viking production.
Mm-hmm. Looks like Hashe giving the GG. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So now comes the Q&A portion where we all ask questions, and also the part where I want to ask you a question as well. It seems like a Thor rush would be extremely difficult to deal with because the Thors just smash the Hellions and just smash the, whatever it's called, the Banshees.
Well, there's 2 different types of Thors. One is the rush Thor, which is what you're actually asking about. And the thing about the rush Thor is if you rush a Thor, you have to build a barracks, a factory, an armory. Then you build the Thor, and then sometimes you build a medevac if you want to drop. If you don't build a medevac, it's going to take a long time to get across the map. Basically, if he moves out with his first Thor, you can always drop and always do a lot of damage. That's not gimmicky in any way. That's just sort of a vulnerability of the Thor build. When you attack, you are very weak to counterattacks. So you can always counter. You can always kill a lot of SCVs, and then you have 2 ports. And now this is when it gets a bit tricky. If you make Vikings, you need to land your Viking. If you make Banshees, you need to attack with your Banshee. You need to attack with your Hellions, and you probably need to attack with your SCVs as well. The thing is that you can almost always kill more SCVs than you lose, and the thing is that you can almost always kill the Thor. You will lose SCVs. It's sort of a tricky counter. It's not straightforward. It's not like build a bunker and win.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you need to micro your Hellions well. You need to kill the Thor by all means, and that is about it.
That seems pretty reasonable. I mean, I like the idea that, I like the idea that there's a style of play, like getting a lot of Thors, where you're just kind of like, yeah, it's a little ugly, but you just are killing him so hard in other ways that you can kind of clean up eventually in a reasonable way. I actually love that so much, because too often people are like, what if he does this? Oh yeah, you just do X. And what if he does this? Oh, you just do Y. When this one it's like, what if he does X? Well, you kill his SCVs and hope he can't do X very well anymore. And then you can kill his shitty X. Yeah.
Yes.
Very interesting sentence. So, Strziga, which is a very difficult name to say, it says, you don't use the barracks much at all. Do you think that Reapers, a mobile unit, a flexible unit, would make an effective mix into your composition? You can do harassment with it. Would you want to vary your composition at all?
That is actually a pretty interesting idea. I have not thought about that at all. Now that I think of it, you do get some more harassment potential. Although the only thing I'm thinking of is the purpose is kind of redundant, because they also have the bonus against light. That is actually an interesting idea, though. I think that would be worth playing with. I do somewhat use the barracks, and that's to produce add-ons, but you're right that most of the time I don't use it. I would say that you should try that out.
Do you have the gas for that, or are you spending all your gas on the air stuff?
I think once you get on a 2 base, 4 gases can actually support like 4x Banshees, which is a little ridiculous. You don't necessarily need that. You can, by that point, you could be getting upgrades, or you could try doing Reapers, so that would be something to try. I don't know.
That'd be awesome. And that's how you deal with the Thors, is having little Reapers running around it. Yes. Oh, here's a great question from Ashkaji, who says, how would this work against a hard turtling tank Terran? It seems like the Hellions and the Banshees would lose a lot of their harassment power against a well-defended turtling player.
I feel like it's kind of the same as ZVT. And this is another reason the build is not as strong on small maps, because on small maps you can mech push. It makes it harder to counterattack. It makes it harder to expand. What I would recommend is basically to play it like a TVZ. You need to expand. You should be able to out-expand him. One thing about the build is that the more they expand, the stronger your harassment gets, because there's a lot more surface area to really protect. So I can't give you an answer like there's a hard counter. There is no hard counter to turtling. You have to macro. You have to. I would say battle cruisers are a good idea. Harass, good position.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, sorry. You're like good. And then it broke, and I panicked.
I do not know what that was.
You know what? It's probably my internet. My internet does all sorts of fun stuff. So we're actually going to take one more question from Tuscan that seems like a very reasonable one. Have you ever tried this against Zerg or Protoss? Is it as effective against these races, or do you have to change anything up? Tell us about your experimentation.
I actually have. Against Zerg, it is very strong, but it is a bit cheesy, because you can actually stop Hellions with spine crawlers. One of the key things in Terran vs. Terran is there is no defensive structure that shoots ground, except for a planetary fortress, which doesn't really count. So when you play Zerg, if they know that you're going to do that, they can drop 4 spines. And then your Hellion harass is significantly weakened. They also have creep, but it is kind of an interesting cheese. You can go 2x, you can go Hellions and then 2x Banshees, which is hard to stop, but they can stop it. I don't like it that much. You may be able to find an alteration. The thing about TVP is that Stalkers you have nothing to kill Stalkers with, especially Blink Stalkers. Air units don't do very good against them, Hellions don't. So I don't think it would work in TVP.
I still really want that to exist, the mass Blue Flame Hellion. So, of course, dearest crowd, if you'd be so kind as to just scream extraordinary amounts of thanks to our good friend, Vile Echoic, who came out and blessed us with wonderfulness. And by the way, iEchoic, if you don't have the chat open, you should just be like, yeah! Everyone's really happy and wants to go play it. So without any further ado, I'm going to mute you. Thank you very much for coming on in.
Thank you.
Peace. All right. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up by, as usual, saying that next week's Friendday Monday is the Mass Contaminate Friendday Monday, if you would be so kind as to, at 3 different points in the game, be casting Contaminate on 3 different buildings simultaneously. So again, that is the definition for mass. Or if you have one structure contaminated 3 times in a row. I want to see tons of Overseers, tons of Contaminate. Submit those replays to Monday at day9.tv. For Newbie Tuesday, it's again going to be all about mechanics, about where you're looking, what you're doing, just with your mouse and keyboard, and less about the strategy stuff. If you could send not just a replay to Tuesday at day9.tv, but also a link to a first-person VOD in 720p ideally, or just any 16:9 format, so we can load the video up and watch it, so we can see exactly where you were looking and what you were doing. That would be amazing. I don't think there's anything else to say. Thank you very much. I'm out. Bye. Goodbye. I'll miss you so much.